All right. So last day, um, we were checking the API done on create customer in Stripe. So this is a custom service actually, have multiple business logic associated, and we need to actually, as a developer, you should have the confidence, like each and every change, uh, whatever workflow or the if else or the error condition or whatever that you are coding here, you're just assuming, like, I mean, it's working. Okay. And in the Postman also, there is testing, but still, again, it's a manual process. So the next time when someone changes something here and commits, if that automation test is not there in the CI/CD pipeline, means there is every chance, like, it can be missed in a regression. So this is actually the automated, unit testing in the pipeline is actually mandatory going forward to ensure, like, the quality is maintained. And also, when you have all the test cases, unit test cases covered in the pipeline, means if someone changes something and if the test case is failing, immediately when they commit the code itself, the developer will see. Now, when you have certain dependencies, like the real environment dependencies itself, to create something and create the data into the database, or retrieve the data from the database, things like that, the time that it can take in the pipeline will be, will increase. So if your test cases are running for, let's say, there are so many services, so going forward, if the number increases, the time that the test cases to run will also considerably increase, which will actually affect the productivity. So whenever you commit something, the time that it will take, for the pipeline to complete can be, right now it's around 3 minutes or something like that. If it's even 10 minutes for the entire test suite to run, means eventually it will affect the productivity of the developers. So that's one thing when you consider about mocking the sorry, mocking the libraries or the external dependencies, so that the test cases should run real quick, but all the workflows are also tested. So that's where the unit test cases will come. Obviously, all the Postman scripts, whatever that we are doing, ideally should be done as automation testing. So based on that, I wrote the unit test cases for this create customer service. Okay, so we have this post called here, and also I took care of the mocking. So I'll come back to that. Um, okay, so quickly I will run this suite. If I run this create customer service suite, it hardly take 90 milliseconds, okay, to finish all the testing, and all test cases were passed. Okay, now how exactly, or when you call this create method, ideally you should have some Stripe service created, the real Stripe service, a teacher model, whatever that's actually for persistence, school model, then it should actually find one teacher when the query is performed. A real API call should be made to Stripe with the email and the name, and you should get a customer back. And this is something I added. Okay, So it should actually return a customer with a customer ID, valid customer ID, so that you can save this type data. It should actually, this API call should be passed so that you can create something to the DB, and that call should pass, and you will get a result, and further API call to this boot model update, and you should return, or get back the customer ID with a success story. So this is what we need to test here. Okay, and we don't have, I mean, so basically we should make use of the um, mocking framework, or whenever these calls are made, instead of uh, going to the real service, ideally we should tell the test to mock this. So the mocking can be performed like, always, or can be like, one time, things like that. So there are many options. So I evaluated many things, and I found like Synergize is actually the best that you can use here. Without, there were actually multiple ways you can test Featherjs. I mean, when I checked in the net, you have even like fake data generators with the real, database testing and things like that. But I am not interested in those things, because mainly because it can actually make you, sit waiting for the pipeline to pass or fail, and always it's unproductive, like, you test it with the real, because the real testing ideally should happen in the end-to-end test cases. Now coming back to Sinon, so I just went to the documentation here. It's actually, when you're new to mocking, this can be little bit confusing. So I will go through this fakes, spice, and stubs for the time being. So the fakes is actually something, when you want to create a fake function, okay, with the ability to set the default behavior. So when I'm saying the default behavior, let's say it's an external Stripe API call, okay. So what exactly is the default behavior? You can actually get that default behavior based on reading the documentation, right? And you can actually create a fake function for that and inject that fake function into your uh, testing, or the source that you need to test. Means whenever that call is made, it will actually go to your fake function rather than the real function. So all these spy, stub, and fake, all those things are, different variations of mocking, but each has its own purpose. Okay, so a fake, once created, the behavior will not change. Unlike, spy and stub methods, the Sinon dot fake API allows only how to create fakes and doesn't concern itself with plugging them into the system. So an example here is actually given. So you created a fake, you invoke the fake, you will get an undefined, uh, you know, so that's actually undefined, and you check the call count, you will get one. Okay. Then you are actually telling Sinon, whenever the call is made, just return foo or anything, whatever that you want. So next time when the fake is called, it will return whatever that you gave here. Okay. So this is actually a simple example without any behavior at all. You are telling to the Sinon framework, whenever I am calling fake, it should return foo. Okay. And Sinon will actually capture the number of times this invocation is made and all. You can get it from call count. So another thing is actually a behavior. Okay. So whenever I am calling this fake, it should throw an error. Okay. So that's called a behavior. right? So whenever I am, so if it's an async or a method that will actually return a promise, you can actually have results and rejects also. Okay, if it's like a callback, you can actually use yields, which will actually kind of yield whatever that you are giving. So example is you are calling the file read file method with a callback, which is a fake. So this is actually will resolve, right? So at that time when the read operation is actually happens, it will give the file content whatever that you are that you are providing in the. So basically you need to understand the way how a fake is working in Sinon. Similarly, you can actually see how a spy is working. So spy is nothing but you are just spying. Okay, I'll compare to these examples with respect to our unit test. Okay, and again, stub is something above fake, which will give you a little bit more control over things. And again, stub is more useful for unit testing because when you create a fake, it's immutable. So what do you mean by immutable? Once you set that thing, you can't change it. Okay, but whereas a stub, you can change that. You can always change the behavior based on your test. So the example here, if you go through the example, it might not make much sense. But if you look at the way we have actually stubbed something in our unit test case, it will make sense for you. Okay, so these three might be the most important thing, and then there is something called mock, which is nothing but you can actually mock this, let's say this method or this API. So you can use Sinon.mock that my API here, and whenever this method call is made, you can actually one time throw an exception or things like that. Okay, and you have the mock.verify. So you can actually when to use mock and when not to use mock. It's clearly given here. So just go through this and understand that also. And in our case, actually, I just wanted to use this stub and spy alone. So where exactly you need a spy and where exactly you need a stub, I will explain that with respect to our test case. So here in our test case, actually, when you make a call to the this.app.get secret, this is something you can actually achieve with a fake or a stub, right? So this is up to you. So I can go with both. This is perfectly fine for a fake also. So whenever I am calling a secret key in app.get, I just need to return something. I can fake that. Okay. So next is actually the this.app.service.stripe. This is something I need to stub. So because I am going to make further call to the create and all, and if I need to change things and all, so it's actually better to stub it. Also, stub might be the better choice here. Okay. Again, teacher model, school model, find one, all these things are stubs or associated things, dependencies, and you should stub it. Here, I'm making a call to update in the school model, and this is actually not returning anything. It's just sending some parameters. I just need to spy this update call so that I can check whether these two params, whatever that is passed, are as per my expectation. Okay, and that's it. I mean, so in our case here, there is a possibility of using fake, and I used stub for these API calls. you can actually try out different things. Okay, and there is a spy here for update. Okay, so this is how I mocked our dependencies. Now again, how I mocked dependencies is actually something called chaining. So what is chaining is when you have a class. In our case, actually, it's just a method, or I would say an object. But let's say when you have a class and each and every method of the class is actually returning instance of the same class, that's where you will get the chaining mechanism. Or you can actually try, you can just chaining methods. So probably you can make a just read this. What exactly is chaining? So yeah. So this is actually a class. It has a constructor. It has different methods. So all methods at the end, it's actually returning the instance of this class itself. So what that means is actually I can write something better rather than multiple lines. So I can actually sum something, then subtract, add, and finally get the value. So it will actually iteratively or sequentially execute as a chain, and you will get the value. Okay, so that's the way we write the dependencies or the mocking of dependencies here. So why I did it is because when you read it, it will give you more readability. So I am telling mock the dependencies with a teacher stub, and this is my expectation from the teacher model. So I am just using the school ID. With Stripe service stub, again, this is my Stripe ID, and this is the underscore ID, whatever that is persisted. And just spy the school and intercept Stripe external call, and this should be the customer ID, whatever that is actually returned. So I am telling this as mocking. So when you have multiple things, and here in next case, actually I want to make sure it's a null so that this not found is created, or that exception is thrown. Here I made the customer as null, and each and every mocking I did it in this way. Okay. Now coming back, I have my constants, or the the dependent IDs, whatever that I need for my testing. I created those things, and I have a service which is actually the service to be tested, and this is actually done in the before each. So we will come back to before each and after each later, but coming back to the mock dependencies, I have a mock app, something I need to push, or I need to set for my mocking to work. So this is actually the setup method, and whenever I create the service, I just need to inject this mock app instead of the real app, so that my app will be the stub one. Okay, now I am starting with my mock dependencies. So I created a stub for the mock app, and the service is the first call that you will make, right? So this app.service, okay, that's the one I mocked first. And I need to actually, I will come back to this. So when I'm creating this service step, nothing is there. Like, I mean, when you make the call, instead of making this empty call, it will return a stub. Now Sinon.stub mockup, the get, I need to mock this get method with arguments as secret key and returns 1, 2, 3. So here you have a chance, or you have the possibility of making a fake call also instead of this stub. But that is fine. I mean, because we are not using this key anywhere other than this method or the stripe creation, but we are actually mocking this stripe.customers with another stub. So it doesn't matter. The key won't matter to us. So I just returned a dummy key as 1, 2, 3. Then you have an empty object created with teacher stub as the first method that needs to actually support mocking for the teacher model. So we have a teacher stub constant with find1 as the method, and you are stubbing this teacher stub for find1, and when that is invoked, it's a promise, so it should resolve to the teacher so that it will return the teacher object. And whenever you call the service stub, which is again this one, with arguments teachers, it should return a model. That model should be my teacher stub, whatever that I created. And this teacher stub is already mocked for find1, which will actually result to teacher. So it might be little bit difficult to digest initially for sure, but if you pay attention, you can understand this, okay, how exactly this stubbing is working. Similarly, for the stripe stub, again, you are calling the create method. You have an empty method or an empty object for stripe stub. I created the stripe stub with the create, whenever you call the create, it should resolve to this customer, what is that is passed. And the service stub with argument stripe should return the stripe stub. So here, if you notice, there is no model. So because this is actually you are calling a service directly, here you are calling the model. Okay. So you just need to return the stripe stub here and return the dependencies. Again, with school spy, you are just creating a school stub for the update with arguments, again model school stub. This is actually a spy. Okay. I'm using spy. So I can actually modify our API so that I can check the count or what all are the parameters passed to this school stub. I'm not doing that right now because I mean we will do that later, but I just want to get you a picture of how this is done. Ideally, you should create the this school stub outside and pass it here so that it will be set here, and in your API or in your test cases you can check the count, how many times the API is called and things like that, which is spy calls. Okay, so this is actually something Sinon gives so that you can get the nth call, or get the first call, and what all are the arguments passed. Is it matching to your expectation? Things like that. You can make those comparison also, which will be actually foolproof way of testing. And Stripe is actually making an API call to the Stripe, so we are intercepting that using a library called knock. So this is another dependency we introduced. So this is like, you intercept the API calls so that you don't have to make the external API calls. Instead, you can actually, if API call is made to github.com and this is the get path, you should reply with 200 and pass, this hard-coded data. So something like that. So when I'm making a post call to make the customers created, so I actually debugged and found out this is the code that is being made. So I mocked that and I gave a reply as 200 here and a response. Now again you can extend this with 404 or 501, whatever response. This is again, you need to read the API documentation and understand. Okay. Then you can actually simulate other scenarios also in your unit. And am I handling those things properly or not? You can test those things. So this is the way we are mocking the dependencies. So I mean, this can be a little bit confusing initially, but remember when you are actually, so I have a mock app without this Sinon stub. If you are just passing this, when you call the service, it will return an empty object or nothing at all because there is no return. So it will just return undefined. So what this mocking does is actually I created a stub, and whenever I make a call to, I'm not calling the service alone, right? I make a call to service dot teachers or service dot stripe, things like that. So at that time, I will get another stub, which is again another constant, and which is again stubbed. So this is kind of a nesting. Okay, it's not that straightforward. Two layers of stubbing. And here again, I mocked or stubbed this create method, which will actually result to custom. Okay, so now I will do a debug. Okay, I'll do a debug so that you can understand this thing more with this positive case. So we are actually going to pass the data and parameters, right? And it's an await call. So I have my breakpoint here also. I'm going to execute. I'm here. Now you can check this.app. Okay. This is our mocked version of service and get, right? So this is actually set in the before each. Okay. So before each and after each is actually two methods that will be called after each test case. Okay. Also, if you want to create something or if you want to invoke something only one time for one particular describe, you can actually use before. Okay. After it is again something that will be executed after the test case. Okay. So here I am making sure my service is again, set to null. I am restoring my mocking using Sinon.restore. I am cleaning my knock. Okay, so that the next time again it's kind of clean, the next execution. Okay, so here I am passing my mock app or injecting it in the setup. I created the service using create customer call and injected using mock app. Injected the mock app. Okay, so I have my data and the parameters passed. I mocked everything, and now if I look at this, I have service and get. Now if I expand this, I have so many methods. Okay, all these things are actually provided by Sinon, like the call count, whether it's actually called twice, thrice, not called. All these dependencies or the attributes are there. All these things can be used for testing. Okay. Now I'm going to execute line by line. So here again we have a secret key that we have mocked and we gave as 1, 2, 3, right? So if you look at this key, it is actually 1, 2, 3. Okay, so this is actually something provided by Sinon as part of the mocking. So we haven't actually changed this stripe API, I mean the object creation to any mock. So this will be a real stripe code. Okay, and it is actually right now set the authentication token as 1, 2, 3, and here you have this host and port, right, and the protocol and all those things. Base path is B1. So when you make an accounts call, when you make a customer call, so I went inside this and figured out what exactly is the call that is made. That's how I actually mock the knock. And now I have the stripe service. Again, check this. This is my create thing, right? It has only create. If it's something else, it would have other methods. So now I just need to create something with mock. Again, if you expand, this is Sinon proxy, it's true. Okay, which means this is again some sort of stubbing, right? And the stubbing worked. Like this, you will have teacher model, school model, and finally you have this teacher code. Okay, so now you have the teacher model, you have an object with find one, and it can actually take any parameters. We didn't set any parameter as such there. Always it will return the teacher that I gave. So I gave a teacher with school ID as 100. So the teacher is there, right? So I came into here. Now this is again, I mocked this create. So I mocked this with knock, right? So when this customers.create call is made, the real API will call the real URL or this call will be made. But since knock is there, it will return 200 and the response based on whatever that I gave. Okay. So I'm going to come to this line. I don't know. Okay, so yeah, this is something I want to explain, or I mean something I need to discuss with you guys also. So whenever I am making a call with Feathers, it's actually connecting to the real database. If you don't have a real database running, even if when you make this call, app.service create customer. So when you make this call, actually it's trying to connect to the real database. Okay, we don't need this to happen, but whether to make this also, I mean, we can actually mock this also using Mongo unit or something. Or in the CI/CD, we can actually give this to the dev Mongo database, because it's not going to change the any data in the Mongo. It's just need a valid connection. Otherwise, once that connection timeout is there, when you are doing debugging, it will actually it will actually exit. You can't actually continue the debugging. Okay, when you're running it, because when you run even before the timeout itself, things will get executed, so you won't face that issue. So now I am here with the customer, and this is my customer and the ID is there. So I can actually, so why I put an ID here, because I can send a customer without an ID. In that case, my code will fail. So that's how I am identifying this ID also is required. Okay, so this is something I added. Now again, stripe data is created. You can actually create, and the mock or the stub will get executed, and you will get a result, something which is actually provided by the stub, and you can execute again, and it will return a promise, right? So the test case is actually, I don't know. I mean, this is again failed because of MongoDB connection, but when you run it, it will pass. Okay, so so that's how I wrote the unit test cases. Now, if you look at the next test case, you're not creating the teacher. So at this point, it will come to here, and the teacher is not there. It will come to the else, and it will return the not found. So I am actually creating a try. Ideally, there should be an error. Okay, if there is no exception thrown, ideally it should fail. And you have the catch exception with E as the exception and make sure that it's an error, I mean Feathers error, and name should be not found, code should be 404, and the message also whatever that you gave here. Okay, so that's done here. Like that bad request, we have two cases. Okay, now if I'm not mocking this, let's say I'm not mocking this will actually go to the real code, right? Okay. So now Stripe authentication error for the invalid API key is that was happened, right? And the type is actually Stripe authentication error.